All right, well, the backyard renovation is complete. It's been about 1 week since we put out the Zenith Zoysia grass seed. I have not seen any germination yet. The past 2 renovations I've done, it's been about 12 to 14 days before we see the first germination. But today we're going to be talking about a post-seeding application that I like to do following seeding any kind of grass seed. The spreader we're using today is a Spread Right G spreader. I've done a video on it. I'll link it above. You can go back and check out and see how we calibrate this spreader and how you go about using it. So if you haven't watched the video of putting out the Zenith Zoysia grass seed, check out the link above. But in that video I talked about doing the edge passes and the different methods you can do to keep from getting seeds into your landscape beds. Well, since I use a rotary type spreader, it's bound to throw a little bit over into the landscape beds because my goal is to get the thickest edges I can going into the first winter. So this is what I do to alleviate having to go through and round up around all my flowers or pull grass seeds out from in between my flowers and bushes. I like to put out a Snapshot Pre-emergent, and it will prevent that grass seed from coming up in those landscape beds. This is a good example of an area that doesn't need to be done. You can see it's pretty wide open. It'll be extremely easy to round up. There's nothing really to work around. And in front of these rocks as well, there's nothing really to spray around. So I would just spray that with Roundup as it germinates. Another thing to keep in mind, if we get a heavy rainstorm, good chance that this pre-emergent may wash before it gets down into the ground. So I am going to water it in the ground to try to prevent that with my hose. But just think, if it does wash down through here, it could have some ill effects on the zoysia that you planted down below it. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, especially on the hillside. So today we're only going to be focusing on the areas where I threw the grass seed over into the landscape beds. I'm not going to worry too much about the wood line because that would be really easy to round up. And I'm not going to worry about the back half of the landscape beds. Since I don't have any mulch or any kind of ground covering in the landscape beds, this pre-emergent's not going to last nearly as long. You want to be careful not to get this in your yard. These bushes are not going to be the edge of the landscape beds. You can see some of the heads going down through there. Those heads will probably be set inside the landscape bed at least 6 or 8 inches. So there's going to be a big area down through here I'll have to round up. All right, well, there you go. About a 5-minute application. It's going to save you a lot of frustration coming up with this zoysia seed germinating in your landscape beds. Just be sure to leave you a good buffer around your grass edge, maybe 6 or 8 inches, because it will be detrimental if you get it over into the area that you're trying to grow the grass seed. Appreciate y'all watching. If you got any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll be sure to try to answer them.